Imagine you're 6 years old. You're bouncing on your brand new mattress. You peel back the sheet and you see it. A crisp, white tag sewn directly into the seam. And on that tag, in terrifying all-caps bureaucratic text, you read the words, "Under penalty of law, this tag not to be removed. Your blood runs cold. Who's watching? The mattress police? The FBI?" For your entire childhood, that tag becomes a symbol of ultimate mysterious authority. A tiny fabric tyrant in your bedroom. We are surrounded by these rules, signs that say employees must wash hands. I mean, duh, right? Flight attendants who spend 10 minutes demonstrating a brace position that just looks like you're kissing your own ass goodbye. These rules seem dumb, pointless, or so obvious they're insulting. But here's the secret. Every dumb rule is a scar. It's the ghost of a story. A story that usually ends with a lot of people dying, or at least sleeping on mattresses stuffed with horse manure and lice. Today we're tearing off the tags, metaphorically. We are diving into the dark, disturbing, and sometimes completely absurd backstories behind the dumbest rules that exist for the smartest reasons. Number 1, the mattress tag, or how to avoid sleeping on Victorian filth. Let's start with that tag, the big, scary legal threat looming over your pillows. Here's the first plot twist. That law isn't for you. It never was. You, the consumer, can rip that tag off with the righteous fury of a Mad Max character. You can set it on fire. You can use it for origami. The government does not care. That warning is for the sellers. The manufacturers, the retailers, the slimy guy running the slightly stained mattress warehouse down by the docks. And the reason it exists is because for a very long time, the mattress industry was one of the most disgusting rackets in human history. Imagine it's London or New York in the late 1800s. You need a mattress. You don't have a lot of money. You go to a shop and the man sells you a brand new mattress for a few shillings. What you don't know is what's inside. You see, in the 19th century, there was a thriving trade in shoddy. That was the industrial term for old recycled wool. But we're not talking about your hipster, upcycled, shabby chic rags. We're talking about literal I just died of cholera in this rags. Rag pickers, often children, would scavenge landfills, hospital waste bins and gutters. They'd collect discarded clothing, old blankets and literal trash. This shoddy would be taken to a mill, ground up and then reprocessed. But reprocessed is a generous term. It was not cleaned, it was not disinfected. If you were lucky, your new mattress was stuffed with this ground up, unwashed shoddy, which was probably crawling with lice and bacteria. If you were unlucky, well, the list of historical mattress fillers is a horror show. Horsehair, often uncleaned straight from the tannery floor, corn husk straw, which would rot and attract vermin, wood shavings, food waste, and in the worst cases, rags and bedding taken directly from hospitals during smallpox or tuberculosis outbreaks. Your mattress wasn't just uncomfortable, it was a biological weapon, it was a vector for disease. Families would get sick, and no one could figure out why. They didn't realise the new bed they just bought was a Trojan horse for scarlet fever. This practice didn't stop in the 1800s, it continued right into the early 20th century. Corrupt manufacturers would buy old, disgusting, stained mattresses from flea-bitten tenement houses, slap a new cover on them, and sell them as new. This is where the law finally steps in. Starting in the early 1900s, state governments began passing laws to, quite literally, clean up the industry. They mandated that any mattress containing used materials had to be labelled as such, and any mattress that was new had to have a tag certifying it was made from all new materials. That under penalty of law tag was the only thing stopping a factory from stuffing your bed with bug-infested garbage. It was a public health measure as important as sewer, systems or clean water. The penalty wasn't for the consumer, it was for the factory owner who tried to rip the tag off to pass off a pile of hospital waste as a deluxe sleeper. And it still matters. Today, the concern isn't cholera, it's bed bugs. When a mattress is returned, or when a hotel renovates, those old mattresses have to go somewhere. Mattress renovators can legally rebuild them. They are supposed to be stripped down to the springs and completely sanitized with chemicals and heat. But what if a shady company decides to cut costs? What if they just spray it with some Febreze, sew on a new cover, and try to sell it as new? The only thing stopping them is that tag, which now has to disclose that the mattress contains used or recycled materials. So go ahead, rip that tag off. But just take a second to thank it. It's the legal ghost that protects you from sleeping on a lumpy pile of 19th century diseases. Speaking of rules that protect you from disgusting things, let's talk about rules that protect you from sudden, violent, physics-based things. If you've flown in the last 50 years, you've seen it. The flight attendant, with the smile of a person who has died on the inside, demonstrating how to use a seatbelt, as if we're all Neolithic cavemen who just discovered fire, let alone buckle technology. And then they get to the main event, the brace position. Bend over, place your head against the seat in front of you, and interlace your fingers behind your head. Or, if you don't have a seat in front of you, bend over as far as you can and grab your ankles. It feels so stupid. It looks like you're preparing to be spanked. It's so counterintuitive that it spawned one of the darkest conspiracy theories of all time, that the brace position is a lie. The theory goes that the brace position does nothing to save you. In fact, it's designed to kill you more efficiently. By bending you over, it ensures the impact snaps your neck, killing you instantly. This makes you a neater corpse, and more morbidly, it protects your teeth, making it easier for the airline to identify your body using dental records and settle the insurance claims faster. It's a horrifying thought. It's also complete and total bullshit. The brace position is, in fact, the single most effective thing you can do to survive a survivable crash. And the reason we know this is thanks to a lot of terrible crashes, and one in particular. Number 2, the brace position, or how to not get decapitated by your own knees. This is British Midland Flight 92. The date is January 8th, 1989. The plane is a brand new Boeing 737-400, flying from London to Belfast. Just minutes into the flight, the unthinkable happens. A fan blade in the left engine snaps. The cabin fills with smoke. The pilots, confused by the vibrations and the new instrument panel, which they weren't fully trained on, make a fatal mistake. They think the right engine is the one on fire, so they shut down their only good engine. They are now flying a 77-ton metal tube with no power over a populated area, desperately trying to glide into the tiny East Midlands airport. They don't make it. The pilot, Captain Kevin Hunt, sees the M1 motorway, one of the UK's busiest highways, looming out of the dark. To avoid killing hundreds of people on the ground, he pulls the plane up one last time and slams it into the motorway embankment, just 500 metres short of the runway. The impact is unimaginable. The plane hits the ground, bounces and smashes through the embankment, splitting into 3 distinct pieces. The tail snaps off. The cockpit is crushed. 47 people died, but here's the miracle. 79 people survived. How? How do 79 human beings survive an impact that rips a 737 to shreds? The answer, according to the official inquiry, was the brace position. The plane had just taken off, so almost everyone was awake and listening. When the pilot screamed, "Brace, brace, brace!" over the intercom, people did it. And the post-crash analysis of why they lived is grim, biomechanical, and brilliant. The brace position is designed to solve 2 major problems in a crash: flailing and projectiles. First, flailing. When the plane hits the ground, it decelerates instantly. Your body, however, does not. It keeps moving forward at hundreds of miles an hour. This is called flail injury. Your arms and legs, which are just hanging free, become 10-pound sledgehammers. They snap forward with such force that they shatter themselves against the seat in front of you. Survivors of other crashes have reported their own legs flying up and breaking their own jaws. The brace position locks your limbs. By grabbing your ankles or the seat, you create a closed loop. Your body becomes one solid, compact mass, far less likely to just break itself apart. But the real reason is the second one, projectiles. And the main projectile is your head. Let's say you're sitting upright, not bracing. The plane hits. Your body's held by the lap belt, but your torso and head fly forward. Your 10-pound head gains incredible momentum and smashes into the seat back in front of you. This is how you get catastrophic head trauma, a broken neck, or, and I'm sorry, literal decapitation. Now look at the brace position. You pre-position your head against the seat in front of you. When the impact comes, your head has zero momentum. It can't be thrown forward, because it's already there. You're using the soft padding of the seat, or your own knees, to absorb the blow, and it's not just your head you have to worry about. In a severe crash, the overhead bins will fail. That's a guarantee. So now, you have laptops, 50-pound roller bags, and bottles of duty-free gin flying through the cabin at 200 miles per hour. They become missiles. What's the best way to not get your skull caved in by a laptop? By curling into a tiny protected ball, with your arms interlaced behind your head, creating a helmet of bone and muscle to protect your neck and skull. The conspiracy theorists were half right. It is about protecting your head, not for your dentist, but so you can use your head to unbuckle your seatbelt and run away from the ensuing fireball. Those 79 survivors of Flight 92 walked, or were carried, away from a wreck that should have killed everyone, proving that the dumbest-looking rule is sometimes the only thing between you and a physics lesson you really don't want to learn. Alright, you've just survived a hypothetical plane crash. You're back on solid ground. You decide to celebrate by buying those new shoes you've been eyeing. You open the box, you get that glorious new shoe smell, and you find this little guy. The forbidden snack. The do not eat packet. Admit it. You've thought about it. Your intrusive thoughts kicked in for just a second and you wondered, what would happen? Is it poison? Is it some classified government chemical? Is this the Tide Pod of the industrial shipping world? This rule seems so aggressive for what is essentially a tiny beanbag full of sand. But the story behind this warning is a fantastic lesson in toxicology, choking hazards, and how a tiny, harmless-looking thing can, well, screw you up in ways you didn't think were possible. Number 3. The Do Not Eat Silica Gel packet. Or how to choke on sand. First, let's get the main thing out of the way. Silica gel is not technically poison. The gel itself is just silicon dioxide. That's the same stuff that makes up 60% of the Earth's crust. It's sand, it's quartz. You're standing on it. In this form, it's just been engineered to be incredibly porous. Think of a single bead of silica gel as a microscopic sponge, a nanosponge, if you want to sound smart. It's a desiccant, which is a fancy word for a thing that sucks up moisture. Its entire purpose in life is to absorb water vapour from the air to keep your new shoes, or your beef jerky, or your electronics from getting mouldy and gross. It is non-toxic, non-flammable, and non-reactive. If you, a full-grown adult, accidentally swallowed 1 or 2 of these tiny clear beads, absolutely nothing would happen. They would pass right through your system unchanged. So, why the terrifying all-caps warning? Reason 1. You're not the target audience. That warning isn't for you. It's for your 6-year-old self, or your actual toddler. Look at this packet. It's small. It's crinkly. It looks exactly like a packet of sugar or salt that you'd find in a restaurant. To a kid, this is indistinguishable from candy or a condiment, and the packet itself and the beads inside are the absolute perfect size to become a choking hazard. The primary reason for that label is not poison, it's asphyxiation. In 2009, the American Association of Poison Control Centers reported over 33,000 calls related to silica gel, and over 80% of them involved children under the age of 6. The do not eat is less of a chemical warning and more of a desperate legal plea to parents saying, "This is not food, your kid will absolutely try to inhale it." Reason 2. It's not poison, but it is a problem. But what if you did eat it? What if you're an idiot and you decide to eat the entire packet? This is where non-toxic gets complicated. Remember, its job is to suck up water. Imagine you dump that packet of hyperabsorbent sand down your throat. As it travels down your esophagus, it immediately starts pulling all the saliva from the tissue. Your throat would feel instantly painfully dry. It's like swallowing a spoonful of cinnamon, but worse. Then it hits your stomach, and it just keeps working. It absorbs stomach acid. It absorbs the water from the food you ate. The beads swell up. If you ate enough of it, the gel could clump together into a solid, rubbery mass. This is called a bezoar, which, fun fact, is a real-life magical antidote in the Harry Potter world. But in reality, it's a clump of indigestible shit in your stomach. This clump can then move into your intestines and cause a bowel obstruction. This is a horrific medical emergency. It's a traffic jam in your guts. Nothing can get through. You experience agonizing pain, vomiting, and severe dehydration. If it's not treated, the pressure can cut off blood flow to your intestinal wall, causing the tissue to die and rupture. So, no, it won't poison you. It'll just clog you, like you're a sink and it's a wad of hair and grease, which is arguably worse. Reason 3. Okay, sometimes it is poison. You thought we were done? Oh, no. See, sometimes you'll see silica gel that isn't clear. It's blue. This is indicating silica gel. The blue colour is a chemical dye that lets you know the gel is dry. When it absorbs moisture and becomes saturated, it turns pink. This is super useful for, say, a museum display case or an industrial-sized dehumidifier. And the chemical they used for this magic trick for decades? Cobalt chloride. Cobalt chloride is a heavy metal. It's classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a possible human carcinogen. It is acutely toxic if ingested. Swallowing this stuff is a very different story. It will cause immediate severe nausea and vomiting. It can damage your heart muscle, a condition called cardiomyopathy, and mess with your thyroid. The European Union banned its use in consumer products in 2000, and most manufacturers have switched to safer, orange, methyl violet, or green iron salt indicators. But not all of them, especially not in industrial-grade products that might filter down into consumer shipping. So, that little "do not eat" packet is a beautiful, efficient piece of illegal ass covering. It's a 3-in-1 warning that means your kid will choke on this. If you eat it, you might give yourself a bowel-blocking gut stone. And hey, there's a non-zero chance it's laced with a carcinogenic heavy metal. Suddenly, it doesn't seem so dumb, does it? Hey, just jumping in here for a second. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the crippling anxiety behind everyday objects, do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. We're a community of morbidly curious people here. Also, if there's a dumb rule you've always wondered about, leave it in the comments below. If it's dark enough, it might just make it into a future video. Alright, back to the stories, and our next one is a killer. You're in a dingy, slightly sticky bathroom at a fast food joint. You finish up, and as you go to the sink, you see it, taped to the mirror. Employees must wash hands before returning to work. You probably roll your eyes. It's the definition of a dumb rule. You'd hope your burrito isn't being assembled by someone who just skipped that step. It feels insulting to the employees, and deeply, deeply unreassuring to the customers. I mean, the fact that they need a sign for this. You might think that sign exists because of general hygiene or common sense. You'd be wrong. That sign exists because of one person. A single human being who, through a combination of stubbornness and bad hygiene, became one of the most terrifying figures in modern medical history. Her name was Mary Mallon, but the world would come to know her as Typhoid Mary. Number 4. Employees must wash hands. Or, The Tale of Typhoid Mary. The story starts in 1906. You're Charles Henry Warren, a wealthy New York banker. You've rented a beautiful summer home for your family in Oyster Bay, Long Island. Life is good. To complete this perfect summer picture, you've hired a new cook, an Irish immigrant named Mary Mallon. She's a bit rough around the edges, but she's an excellent cook. Her specialties are hearty, simple, and delicious. And her peach melba, visual, a beautiful shot of peach melba, is to die for. Then, one by one, your family starts to get sick. It starts with your daughter, a raging fever, chills, aches, a faint rash. Then, the horrific intestinal distress. It's typhoid fever. Typhoid in 1906 is a monster. It kills 1 in 10 people it infects, and it's a disease of filth. It's a disease of the slums spread by contaminated water and food. How in the hell did it get into your pristine, wealthy Oyster Bay mansion? Within a few weeks, 6 of the 11 people in your house are on their backs, fighting for their lives. The landlord, terrified that his multi-$1,000 rental is now cursed, hires a man named George Soper. Soper isn't a cop. He's a sanitary engineer. Think of him as a disease detective. Soper descends on the house. He tests everything. The pipes, the well water, the milk supply, the toilets. Everything comes back clean. Soper is baffled. If it's not the water, it has to be the food. He starts to investigate the family, and he finds a pattern. He notices the one person who didn't get sick, the one person who was healthy as a horse, cooking and serving food to everyone else. Mary Mallon, he starts digging into her employment history, and what he finds chills him to the bone. 1900, Mamaroneck, NY. Mary works for a family. Within 2 weeks they have typhoid. 1901, Manhattan, Mary works for another family. The laundress gets typhoid and dies. 1902, Dark Harbour, ME. Mary works for a wealthy lawyer. 7 of the 8 people in the household get typhoid. 1904, Long Island. Mary works for a family. 4 of the household staff are hospitalized with typhoid. The pattern is undeniable. Everywhere Mary Mallon goes, an outbreak of typhoid fever follows. Soper has found his patient zero. There's just one problem. Mary herself has never been sick. Soper realizes he's found something new, an asymptomatic carrier. Mary's body was a walking, talking factory for Salmonella typhi, the bacteria that causes typhoid. It was living in her gallbladder, and she was shedding it in her excretions. And Mary was a cook. Think about her specialty. Peach melba. What does that involve? Slicing raw peaches, scooping ice cream, handling them with her bare hands. It's a no-bake dessert. All it took was one visit to the bathroom, one time not washing her hands properly, and she was, in effect, seasoning her famous dessert with a lethal dose of bacteria. Soper, a man of science, decides to confront her. This goes poorly. He finds her at her new job in Manhattan. He calmly explains his theory. He says, "You're spreading disease and death. I need samples of your blood, urine, and feces." Mary's response? According to Soper's own journals, she seized a carving fork and advanced in my direction. He runs for his life. Mary could not believe it. She felt perfectly healthy. She was a clean, professional woman. To her, this wasn't a medical diagnosis. It was a slur. It was an upper-class man blaming a poor Irish immigrant for a filth disease. It took 5 police officers and a doctor from the New York City Health Department to finally catch her. They had to physically tackle her as she tried to escape, fighting and screaming, and bundle her into an ambulance. They took her to a hospital, tested her, and Soper was 100% right. Her stool was, as one doctor put it, a pure culture of typhoid bacteria. The city had a massive problem. They couldn't cure her. Antibiotics didn't exist yet, and they couldn't let her go. She was a public health menace, so they did the only thing they could. They imprisoned her. Visual, black and white photo of North Brother Island. They sent her to North Brother Island, a tiny, isolated quarantine island in the East River. She was locked in a small cottage for 3 years. Typhoid Mary became a media sensation, a monster, a pariah. In 1910, a new health commissioner, feeling she had been punished enough, decided to free her. He let her go on one solemn promise. She had to swear an oath that she would never ever cook for anyone again. She agreed. She lied. The moment she was free, Mary Mallon vanished. She changed her name to Mary Brown, and because it was the only thing she knew how to do, she went right back to work. As a cook, she cooked in hotels, she cooked in restaurants, and in 1915, in the most horrifying move of all, she got a job cooking at the Sloan Hospital for Women, a maternity hospital. An outbreak of typhoid rocked the hospital. 25 doctors, nurses, and new mothers got sick. 2 of them died. The health department, led by a furious George Soper, knew exactly who to look for. They tracked the outbreak to the new cook, Mary Brown. They tested her. It was her. This time there was no mercy. They sent her back to North Brother Island, and she never left. She lived there, in total isolation for the next 23 years, dying alone in 1A938. Mary Mallon is the literal ghost in that bathroom. She is the human embodiment of the fact that common sense is not common. That sign isn't just a polite reminder, it's a law. It's a legal order, written in the blood of Mary's victims, screaming at the person making your food. You're legally required to not be the next Typhoid Mary. Go. Wash. Your hands. Okay, so you've survived the mattress tag, the brace position, the forbidden snack, and Typhoid Mary. You've earned a rest. You decide to buy a new sofa, and there it is. Again, another one. Do not remove under penalty of law. But this one's different. It's not about bedbugs or 19th century filth. This tag is long, it's wordy, it's full of boring legal jargon like, this article complies with California Technical Bulletin 117, 2013. It's the most boring, dumb, skippable rule you can imagine. Except, this tag is arguably the most important one in your entire house, because it's not about what's in your sofa, it's about what your sofa becomes in a fire. This tag is a peace treaty. It's a negotiated settlement in a decades-long war between consumer safety and chemical companies, and the battleground is your living room. The casualty is you. Number 5. The Sofa Flammability Tag, or How to Not Get Murdered by Your Couch. Host. Let's rewind to the 1950s. If your house caught on fire, you had a decent chance. Why? Because your furniture was natural. It was made of wood, cotton, and wool. These things burn, sure, but they burn slowly. They char. They smoulder. A fire started on a 1950s sofa might take 20 to 30 minutes to really get going. That's a ton of time to wake up, smell the smoke, and get the hell out. Then came the 1960s and 70s. We entered the age of comfort. We fell in love with a miracle material, polyurethane foam. It's the squishy, springy, lightweight foam that's in everything. Your couch cushions, your office chair, your pillows, your car seats. It's an incredible invention. It is also, and this is the important part, solid gasoline. This stuff is a petroleum product. It's oil that has been whipped into a foam, and when it ignites, it doesn't just burn, it liquefies. It melts into a black, flaming napalm-like river of goo that sticks to everything. Your floor, your walls, your skin. And it burns fast. A fire that started on a 1970s foam-filled sofa could cause a full-room flashover, where the entire room and all its contents spontaneously ignite from the sheer heat. In less than 3 minutes, the 30-minute escape window you had in 1950, it's gone. You now have 180 seconds to get out of your house before it becomes an unsurvivable inferno. But even that isn't the scariest part. The real killer isn't the flame, it's the smoke. When this foam burns, it releases a toxic cloud of thick, black, oily smoke that is a chemical weapon. It is a soup of carbon monoxide, which puts you to sleep, and most terrifyingly, hydrogen cyanide. Yes, cyanide. The same shit you see in spy movies, the bite the pill poison. Firefighters and coroners started noticing a horrifying new trend in house fires. The victims weren't burned to death. They were found in their beds, rooms away from the fire with no burns on them at all. They had died in their sleep. They had been poisoned. They had suffocated to death on the cyanide gas. From their sofa burning in the living room, this was a public health crisis. So in 1975, the state of California passed a law, Technical Bulletin 117. Visual, graphic of the TB117 name. TB117 was a simple test. You had to take a piece of the polyurethane foam and hold it over a small, 1.5-inch open flame, like a candle, for 12 seconds. If the foam didn't ignite, you passed. The furniture industry, desperate to keep using their cheap, wonderful foam, had a problem. How do you make solid gasoline not catch fire? You don't. That's too expensive. Instead, you just douse it in chemical flame retardants. They started mixing pounds of chemicals, specifically brominated flame retardants, penta-BDE, into the foam. These chemicals worked. They did in fact stop the foam from igniting for 12 seconds. And since California is such a massive market, all furniture manufacturers in the US started doing this. From 1975 to 2013, almost every single couch sold in America was pumped full of these chemicals. Problem solved, right? No. We just traded a fast death for a slow one. See, these flame retardants were not bonded to the foam. They were just mixed in, like sugar in iced tea, and over time they break down. They off-gas into the air. They degrade into microscopic dust. This dust settles on your floor. Your toddler crawls on the floor. Your toddler puts their hands in their mouth. You breathe in this dust every single day. Scientists started studying this chemical, penta-BDE, and what they found was horrifying. It's a neurotoxin that can lower a child's IQ. It's an endocrine disruptor, meaning it messes with your hormones. It's linked to thyroid disease, infertility, and cancer. And here's the real kicker, the final dark humour punchline. They don't even work. Later studies found that while these chemicals could stop the foam from igniting from a small open flame, the TB117 test, they did absolutely nothing in a real-world fire. Once the fire got hot enough, say, from the curtains catching fire first, the flame-retarded foam still ignited, and when it did ignite, it released all of those chemicals plus the cyanide in an even more toxic cloud of smoke. Firefighters were furious. They were breathing this shit in. Cancer rates among firefighters skyrocketed. We had in effect poisoned our entire population for 30 years, for no reason. We had created a rule that was so dumb, it actually made the problem worse. So what is that tag on your new sofa? It's the "We're sorry" tag. In 2013, after decades of lobbying from firefighters, scientists and consumer groups, California finally changed the rule. TB117-2013 is a new, smarter test. It gets rid of the open flame on the foam test. Instead, it tests the fabric, the cover. It requires the fabric to pass a smolder test, like a lit cigarette, without bursting into flames. This is genius. Why? Because it stops the fire before it ever gets to the foam, and it means manufacturers can finally stop pumping their foam full of toxic gunk. That dumb tag is the only way for you to know which sofa you have. Does it comply with the old TB117, meaning it is full of poison, or the new TB117-2013, meaning it's probably not full of poison? It's a tiny, boring legal warning that is quite literally a matter of life, death, and slow-acting carcinogens. Sleep tight. The caution wet floor sign. This is it. This is the one. The absolute peak of insulting your intelligence signage. Are we, as a species, so catastrophically unaware of our own surroundings that we need a bright yellow monument to tell us that the shiny, reflective, soapy-smelling floor is in fact wet? This sign is the poster child for frivolous lawsuits. It is the physical manifestation of a society so litigious, so addicted to suing, that we have to warn people about the basic properties of water. We all know that story, right? The story of the idiot woman who put a cup of McDonald's coffee between her legs, drove her car, spilled it, and then sued for millions, and won. That story is why we have these signs. That story is why your bag of peanuts has to say "warning contains nuts." That story is why we can't have nice things. And what if I told you every single part of that story is a lie? What if I told you the idiot woman was a 79-year-old grandmother who wasn't even driving? That the coffee was a liquid heated to a temperature hotter than your car engine's radiator? And that the frivolous lawsuit was a desperate plea for the company to just pay her skin graft level medical bills? The dumb wet floor sign isn't dumb. It's a direct descendant of one of the most brutal, misunderstood and corporate-spun legal cases of the 20th century. It's the reason you're allowed to sue a billion-dollar company when it fucks you up. Number 6. Caution, wet floor, or the cold, hard truth about hot coffee. This is Stella Liebeck. In 1992, She was 79 years old. She wasn't a get-rich-quick schemer. She was a former department store clerk, a grandmother, a salt-of-the-earth kind of person. On February 27, 1992, Stella was in the passenger seat of her grandson's Ford Probe. They were not driving. They were parked in the parking lot of a McDonald's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She bought a 49-cent cup of coffee. Her grandson pulled into a spot so she could add cream and sugar. The car, a Ford Probe, had no cup holders, so she did what literally every person in 1992 did. She braced the cup between her knees. She pulled back the lid. The cup tilted, and the entire contents of the cup spilled onto her lap. Now, you've spilled coffee on yourself. It's hot. You yell. You cuss. You have a red splotch for an hour. That is not what happened to Stella Liebeck. The coffee she was served was not hot. It was 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 88 degrees Celsius. Let's put that in perspective. Coffee you brew at home is about 140 grader, 60. Water boils at 212 grader. Your skin, your delicate 79-year-old human skin, suffers third-degree burns on contact at 160 degrees to 71 grader. This coffee was 30 degrees hotter than the temperature required to instantly destroy human tissue. It was just 22 degrees shy of boiling. The coffee fused her cotton sweatpants to her skin. She went into shock. Her grandson rushed her to the hospital. She had third-degree burns, the worst possible kind of burn, where the skin is destroyed all the way down to the fat and muscle, covering 6% of her body. She had lesser burns over 16% of her body. She spent 8 days in the hospital. She underwent multiple agonizing debridement procedures where doctors scraped the dead, burned tissue off her. She needed extensive, excruciating skin grafts. She almost died from infection. She was partially disabled for 2 years, and she didn't want to sue. Her first contact with McDonald's was a simple, polite letter. She wrote, "I am in the hospital. I have a lot of skin grafts. I can't work. My medical bills are already $10,000. This is 1992. Could you please just help me pay for my medical bills?" She asked for a total of $20,000 to cover her current and future medical expenses. McDonald's sent her a check for $800. That is when she got a lawyer. When the case went to trial, her lawyers discovered something insane. This wasn't an accident. This was a policy. McDonald's corporate manual required its franchises to keep their coffee between 180 and 190 degrees. Why? For taste? No. Because according to their own executive, it lasts longer. It extends the hold time, so they throw less away. It was a profit decision. And when the lawyers pulled McDonald's records, they found that in the last 10 years, 1982-1992, they had received over 700 reports from men, women, and children who had been severely burned by their coffee. 700 people, including infants. And they did nothing. They hadn't changed the temperature. They hadn't changed the cup lids. They knew. They knew. One McDonald's executive, when asked in court about the 700 burn cases, called the number statistically insignificant. The jury hated that. They weren't angry that she spilled coffee. They were furious that McDonald's knew its product was a public menace and intentionally kept selling it that way. The jury did not award her millions. They awarded her $200,000 in compensatory damages for her medical bills, pain, and suffering. But they found her 20% at fault for spilling it, so they reduced that award to $160,000. Then came the big one, punitive damages. This is the punishment money. This is the jury's chance to slap a corporation and say, never do this again. The jury settled on $2.7 million. Why that number? Was it random? No. They calculated McDonald's total revenue from coffee sales in just 2 days. The jury was, in effect, finding McDonald's 2 days of coffee money to punish them for 10 years of scalding their customers. The media never told you that part. They also never told you that the judge, in the end, reduced the punitive damages to just $480,000, 3 times the compensatory damages. And they definitely never told you that, in the end, Stella Liebeck and McDonald's settled out of court for a confidential amount that experts believe was less than $500,000. Stella Liebeck was not an idiot. She was a victim. Her frivolous lawsuit changed the world. After her case, McDonald's immediately lowered its coffee temperature by 20 degrees. Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and the entire industry followed. And that brings us back to this. This sign is not for the idiots. It is a legal shield that exists in a post-Stella Liebeck world. In tort law, that's the law of suing people, there's a concept called duty of care. A business has a duty to provide a reasonably safe environment for its customers. A wet floor is a foreseeable hazard. The business knows it's dangerous. If they don't warn you, if they don't put up this sign, and you slip, fall, and break your skull open, they are 100% liable. They have breached their duty of care. This little yellow sign is the only thing that transfers the liability from them to you. When you see this sign, it's not the business insulting your intelligence. It's the business's lawyer screaming, "We are aware of the hazard. By putting up this sign, we have fulfilled our legal duty. If you walk on it anyway and eat shit, that's on you, pal. Stella Liebeck's case proves it." It's not a suggestion. It's a summons. It's a legal document in the shape of a tent. If you are, let's say, of a certain age, this screen is burned into your DNA. This is the sound of your childhood. You've just gotten home from Blockbuster. You're clutching a copy of The Goonies. You jam it into the VCR. The machine whirs, clicks, and this appears. Federal law provides severe civil and criminal penalties for the unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or exhibition of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs, and is investigated by the FBI and may constitute a felony with a maximum penalty of up to 5 years in prison and/or a $250,000 fine. The FBI, a $250,000 fine, 5 years in prison, for what exactly? For having a VCR with 2 decks and making a copy of Top Gun for your cousin? It's the definition of overkill. It's like using a nuclear warhead to kill a mosquito. This rule seems not just dumb, but comically out of touch. We all taped stuff. We taped movies off HBO. We taped the Super Bowl. We made mixtapes. No one ever went to federal prison for it. So, why the apocalyptic warning? Was it all a bluff? Oh, it was not a bluff. That warning wasn't for you, the kid with the blank tape. That warning was for organized crime. The story behind this screen is not about kids sharing movies. It's about the multi-billion-dollar shadow industry of mass-produced counterfeits, run by the same people who are trafficking in drugs and guns. Number 7. The FBI warning screen, or how your Top Gun bootleg funded the mob. To get this, you have to understand what a bomb the VCR was. When it landed in homes in the late 70s and early 80s, Hollywood panicked. They saw it as an existential threat. The head of the MPA, the legendary Jack Valenti, famously went to Congress in 1982 and said, "I say to you that the VCR is to the American film producer, and the American public as the Boston Strangler is to the woman home alone." Yes, he compared your dad's VCR to a serial killer. Hollywood sued. They sued Sony, the makers of Betamax, in a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. They wanted to ban the VCR from existence. They lost, by the way. The Supreme Court ruled that taping TV for time shifting was legal. Whew. But while Hollywood was worried about you taping Happy Days, a much bigger monster was growing. This was the Wild West era of home video. A blockbuster movie like E.T. or Star Wars might not come out on video for a year after it left theaters, and when it did, it cost $80. No, that's not a typo. Tapes were priced for rental, meaning the studios expected the video store to buy one copy for $80, not you. So you have this perfect storm. 1. Massive demand. Everyone wants E.T. 2. Zero supply. It's not out on video yet. 3. Insane prices. When it is, it's $80. Who loves a market like that? Organized crime. Visual, grainy black and white surveillance photos of men in suits. Piles of cash. This wasn't one guy with 2 VCRs, this was a business. Crime syndicates in New York, LA, and Miami set up mass duplication factories in unmarked warehouses. They'd get their master copy one of 2 ways. Either they'd bribe a film projectionist for a print of the movie, which was insanely high quality, or they'd send a guy into a theatre with a high-end camcorder, the giant shoulder-mounted kind. Then, the burn began. They would have hundreds, sometimes thousands of VCRs chained together. They'd churn out tens of thousands of bootleg Star Wars tapes per week. And these weren't the shitty cam rip you'd download later in life. They were professional. They'd design and print perfect, 4-color counterfeit box art. They'd professionally shrink wrap them. To the average video store owner, they looked identical to the real thing. A salesman, a mob associate, would walk into Mum and Pop Video and say, "Look, I know Paramount is charging you $80 a pop for Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's crazy. How about I sell you 20 copies for $10 each?" The store owner, who just wants to make a living, buys them. You rent it, you have no idea. The mob just laundered its money through you. This was a multi-billion-dollar industry. The FBI wasn't guessing. They were tracking it. They found the profits from this massive interstate copyright infringement and fraud operation were being funneled directly into their other businesses: drug trafficking, loan sharking, and illegal gambling. This was not a victimless crime. The MPR for once was right. The FBI had to go to war. They started Operation Copy Kill and Operation Fast Forward. They were raiding these factories and seizing millions of tapes. They were arresting people for wire fraud and racketeering, the RICO Act. So that big scary blue screen, that was the warning shot. It was a message, not to 10-year-old you, but to the video store owner. It was the FBI saying, "We are watching, we are investigating this, and if we find one of these counterfeit tapes in your store, we're not just going to sue you, we're going to arrest you, we will seize your business, and you will go to federal prison for being a fence for the mob." It was a tactic to choke the distribution network, and it worked. It scared the shit out of the retailers, and it gave the FBI the legal justification they needed to bring the full force of the federal government down on what was truly a massive criminal conspiracy. All you wanted to do was be kind and rewind, but you were an unwitting pawn in a war between Hollywood, the FBI, and the mob. So what have we learned? That every dumb rule is a scar. It's the ghost of a story that almost always ends in tragedy, chaos, or a really expensive lawsuit. That mattress tag, visual, host picks it up, isn't just a tag. It's the ghost of a 19th century child sleeping on a bed stuffed with cholera-infected rags. The brace position, visual host holds up a safety card, isn't a dumb ritual. It's the hard-won wisdom from the 79 survivors of Flight 92, who proved that physics doesn't care if you look stupid. That employees must wash hands sign isn't just hygiene. It's the ghost of Typhoid Mary, a woman who couldn't be convinced that her hands were a biological weapon. That wet floor sign, visual, host points to it, isn't for idiots. It's for Stella Liebeck, a 79-year-old grandmother who was horribly burned by a corporation that valued hold time over human skin. And that FBI warning, visual, host holds up the VHS, was a declaration of war against a multi-billion-dollar criminal empire. These rules aren't here to insult our intelligence. They're here because, at some point in our recent history, someone's common sense failed. Spectacularly. They are the legal guardrails. They are the social fire alarms. They are the collected and often bloody wisdom of our own past mistakes, written down in all caps and taped to a mirror. They're not dumb. They're the only reason we're smart enough and safe enough to be alive today. Thanks for watching. If you liked this, and you want to know the dark stories behind more things you see every day, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. And if you want to fall down another rabbit hole right now, check out our other videos on the channel. Try not to get killed by your couch, I guess. So, yeah, see ya.